Thariya. Our special guest today is Mr. Buddhika, an international marketing expert, a director in the corporate world, a world-class lecturer, and I was fortunate enough to become one of your students, sir, a consultant and an entrepreneur. His recent project is called Cashew Talks, a business venture that aims to deliver quality and authentic cashew-related products, along with quite a few product variants. Welcome to this episode, Mr. Buddhika.
Thank you so much, Tharindu, inviting me, and it's so nice to see you back. As always, you looks very smart and good looking.
Thank you, Mr. Buddhika. Okay. The first thing that I would really like to talk to you about is, do cashews really talk? Tell us about that story.
Okay. Actually, if you really look at it, it's a premium product.
Yeah.
So I wanted to position it to the affluent top end of the market, and also it's a variety-driven brand. So as the name suggests, once you experience it, you really feel it. So it's a wonderful product, wonderful brand,
Mhm.
and I think those who have not tried, it's time for them to try our product.
Of course. Of course. So why cashews, Mr. Buddhika? I'm just curious to know. Like,
Well, actually, with my experience in different markets with different products, I was looking at different options.
mm,
And of course, Sri Lanka or the Ceylon, we have certain unique products, varieties that has a mass appeal, not only within the country, even out of the country.
yeah.
So if you look at, there are so many other products that we have taken into the international markets. But cashew, of course, if you look at the global market, it's a very competitive marketplace. But again, like our teas, our cashew is one of the best, in terms of taste,
Mm,
in terms of quality.
yeah.
So I looked at it. I thought, okay, it has a huge appeal, and also in terms of value addition, that's a product that you could create a lot of value addition in terms of different taste profiles, varieties, all that. So looking at it, I thought that would be a very good niche product that I could get into.
Okay. So how's the response so far, Mr. Buddhika? Like for this, but it's a catchy name. I'm like kudos to you. It's a very catchy name, Cashew Talks.
Thank you very
So
much. And so far, the feedback has been exceptional. We are moving really well. And in addition to cashews, we have recently launched a range of special nuts, including products like pistachio, walnuts, almond, all that. And even in cashews, actually, we have so many different varieties, you name it, garlic to sugar coated to burnt, roasted, all that. Again, using the technology, we are more into digital online based marketing, looking at the consumer convenient factor.
right.
Within very few months, I would say we have gained a very good market, a very good inroad into the local market.
That's really nice to hear. So, uh, moving back to the first job that you did. So, like, you were a medical delegate, if I'm not mistaken. So, I would really
Yes.
like to talk about that, the responsibilities that you have actually carried out. Like whenever you are attached to that company and whenever you are carrying out the duties of that job. Because the very reason that I'm asking this question is like when it comes to a medical delegate, the perception in this country is something else. But having said that, look at the journey that you have come so far. So your starting point was that. I would really like to hear your perspective on it. Like what sort of impact that you had.
Yes, it's a good question, Tharindu. Actually, I was so fortunate to start my career with the big multinational GlaxoSmithKline. Of course, it was earlier Glaxo Wellcome and SmithKline Beecham. Those were two separate entities, but I joined this organization after the merger, GlaxoSmithKline.
Okay.
So, for me to explain now, if you look at the marketing communications or promotions, there are different elements for you to promote a product.
Correct.
Now, this medical delegate comes under medical marketing. Now, if you look at, there are certain products you can't advertise, you can't do sales promotions.
Mm, mm,
Now, now if you look at in the pharmaceutical industry, most of, I mean, there are a lot of doctors, there are a lot of patients, you have to have certain products that suits, different requirements. Now
Correct.
the job, the fundamental job role of a medical delegate or a medial detail person or a medical representative is to educate or give required product knowledge to doctors, and
Correct.
as a result of it, to create offtake of a particular product. Now
Mm,
the beauty or the challenge of this is enormous, because from one perspective, as a medical delegate or as a medical representative, you will get very, very limited time to convince or talk to a doctor. That is
mm,
one aspect.
mm.
From another perspective, you will be the only person responsible for this product range, because there is no TV ad, there is no radio ad, there is no hoarding or anything.
Yeah.
So the product movement or the prescription generation is purely linked to your ability. So within
Mm,
a short time, convincing a very knowledgeable, educated person on a product is a tough job. And you are absolutely right, there are certain different perceptions, because those days, I'm talking about many, many years ago, Sri Lanka had very few pharmaceutical companies, and all those medical representatives were trained. They were, some top individuals.
mm,
But unfortunately, the industry went on a different direction, and we had so many pharmaceutical companies coming in. And as a result of that, the proper job was, it went on a different direction. Some
mm,
people were promoting in a different way.
mm.
But I learned a lot. To give you an example, in terms of patients, you go to a particular hospital or a general practitioner to meet him or her in his or her private practice.
Yeah.
So you have to wait a long time to meet this particular doctor.
Mm,
So of course, I was fortunate to start my career with GlaxoSmithKline, and their product range was more like the OTC, including brands like Panadol, to summarize it, it was a fantastic job where you convince someone and give product knowledge. As a result of that, the product knowledge incurred by doctor would be very much influential and important to recommend the appropriate dosage or what kind of a
mm.
side effects that product will have and all that.
Correct. So, like, when you were explaining it, you actually have mentioned a very interesting point that when it comes to convenience the doctor, you have had only a limited time. So, whereas I would say that that job must have taught you how to convince people in a very short time.
Yes, actually, it's I would say it's I'm so glad that I started my career like that, and because you tend to convince or talk about a product in a very limited time. Sometimes it's not only one product. Actually, I
Yeah.
forgot to mention. Generally, a medical delegate will have so many different products. So sometimes a particular product that you promote to a VOG or a gynecologist is different to a product you promote to a dental surgeon. So
Yeah.
depending on your product mix, you will meet different specialized doctors and general practitioners.
Mm,
So you have to adapt yourself accordingly.
correct. So, um, uh, another question, like, you must have actually handled Panadol as a brand, right?
Yes.
So, was it easier or was it hard? I think it must like,
Well, actually, those days, I'm talking about in year 2000, 2001 era, we were in Sri Lanka, the volume of Panadol was about 19 tablets per second.
oh my,
තප්පරයකට පෙති 19ක සේල් එකක් තිබ්බා
Tibba.
ඒ දවස්වල. So it's
Oh,
such a massive brand, and so expectations also were very high. And
mm,
also to explain, Panadol is a product that we didn't have to promote it, but then even most of the doctors were using it, so it's part of the medical promotional activities. So even sometimes doctors, they wanted our products. So Panadol is, we were not really promoting it per se, but we really wanted to keep in touch with doctors.
mm. Okay. So, moving now, we are moving into the international marketing subject. So, how did you get into this field, and what is international marketing according to you?
Okay. International marketing is actually, I don't want to make it very complicated. It's purely taking a particular product or a service under a particular brand name beyond your domestic market. And that's
Yeah.
how it starts. So, for it to be a real international brand or international marketing process, you need to have presence in multiple international markets. And how I got into it was actually, like I mentioned, I was working for different organizations,
Yeah.
but there was a time, Dilma,
Mm.
actually, it's my, at that time, it was my dream company. They advertised for a brand sales manager. I
Okay.
still can remember when I saw the advertisement on papers, I was so excited.
You are
And
still
this was
excited.
more of a unique position.
You are
Sorry?
still no. You are. I told that when you explaining, you are still excited about it.
Yes, because actually all this time, even in Sri Lanka at that time, they had brand manager positions,
Mm.
they had sales manager positions, but they were looking at someone with brand sales experience. This
Mm.
was like more of a country manager job in a short to medium term duration.
Okay.
And when I saw the vacancy, I loved it and I applied it. And eventually, I went for a couple of interviews and they selected me. And that's how I started my international marketing career. And I think it was in 2008.
Okay.
And I worked for Dilma for about 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a fabulous experience and exposure for me, Taridu.
It must have been. Um, how did you get into lecturing, Mr. Buddhika? When did you start lecturing?
Yes, actually, it was again. I had a huge passion for lecturing from those days, but
Mm.
due to my career, due to my involvement, especially with Dilma at that time, I didn't have time. But once, if I can remember, I was in Malaysia on an official visit, and I just completed CPM, Certified Professional Marketer of Sri Lanka
Okay.
Institute of Marketing,
Mm.
and my lecturer, actually, he's a very good friend of mine also, Amita Gamage.
Yeah.
He actually, he on my Facebook, he has sent me a message asking whether I can take over a particular class.
Okay.
And I was thinking, I asked, are you joking? Then he said, no. Then he said, no, you are the person, you have the exposure and
Mm.
experience in Asia. Come and share your knowledge with students. And initially, it was a kind of a guest lecture. I came to Slim and did a guest lecture to students, and the rest is history. Actually, that's how I started. And after that, my good friend Louis Dias, the founder and the owner of Strategy, and now it goes as Cambridge,
Yeah.
he gave me the opportunity to lecture at his institute.
Mm.
And eventually, it was one or two sessions, and then subsequently, the number of lectures increased, and there was a time I couldn't cope up with lecturing. So it was how that is how I entered, and I had a huge passion for lecturing.
Yeah.
So I was lecturing in Canada, in Matara, and different part of the country. So that's how I got into it, Tarindu.
Okay. So you are still doing it, if I'm not mistaken. You are still lecturing, right?
Yes, in terms of real involvement, I have really reduced it. But some institutes, some individuals are not allowing me to
Yeah.
move
I'm
away
also telling.
from the lecturing.
Yeah, I'm also telling. Don't stop it, Mr. Buddhika.
So I actually, if I can add value to someone's life, if I can share my experience and exposure, I would be really happy. So that's why still, rather than quitting it 100%, whenever I have time, I try to get involved with lecturing.
Okay. So how many countries you have visited? I think like you've been doing this international marketing since 2018. So sorry, 2008. How many countries you have visited? Any particular country that you would love to travel, and the reason?
Yes, actually, I can't remember the exact number, but I would say about 35 to 40 countries I have been
Wow.
to.
Hmm.
And it's across all the regions in Asia, in Middle East, in Europe, all these regions I have been to. And I have a kind of a favorite country. I would say Malaysia.
Okay. Any
I
reason?
just love the country. There are few reasons. One is in terms of infrastructure, it's almost an very well developed country,
Mm,
and in terms of the culture, in terms of lifestyle, the food habits,
mm,
the climatic condition, everything is perfect. Because it doesn't have extreme weather conditions and all that. People are very friendly, very nice. They have even food. They have the Chinese, the Malay food, the Indian food, and all that. And also traveling from one place to another place, it's a very easy, very
mm,
convenient, very disciplined country. So consider, and also it's not very costly also compared to a country like Singapore.
mm.
So for me, in fact, I was based in Malaysia for Dilma. So since you asked me to name one country, I would say Malaysia. Having
Malaysia.
said that, I have enjoyed and had a lot of good staying in certain other countries also. For example, countries like Vietnam,
Mm,
countries like Maldives. I have a I really like those countries also, but I would say Malaysia is basically the number one.
the number one. So the wealth of experience you gained from each country must have immensely impacted your thinking process, both in professional and personal life. So if you could actually share your thoughts on the same um, phrase that I have actually made, like what sort of experience that you have gained in terms of, like getting into the professional life as well as enhancing the personal life.
Yes, Tarindu, if you look at almost 13 years of international marketing career, I have learned a lot by going into different countries, staying in different countries. So first of all, I'm very thankful and grateful to organizations like Dilma,
Yeah.
and also in between I worked for another company called Maltras International, which is another tea company, and John Keel's Consumer. So all these organizations, especially Dilma and John Keel's, they have given me a lot of international exposure. I have been to many countries representing these organizations.
Mm,
Uh, so for me to explain few things that I learned in these markets is the sacrifices you need to do. That's, I
mm.
would say, the number one, because I started my international marketing career in an assignment in Maldives, where
Okay.
I had to move away from my family and based in a country like Maldives. Uh, I was working in countries like India, in Bangladesh, in extreme conditions. I mean, when I say extreme conditions, it's something to do with the climatic
Mm,
conditions, the food, the noise levels, the
mm.
dust levels,
Of course.
because it's not the lifestyle I have in my own country.
Mm,
If I go to Vietnam, I will go in a motorbike with someone else. They will not understand the language. So
mm.
to give you the critical points, I would say the level of sacrifices you need to do to accomplish something. So that's the fundamental thing I learned. And also how flexible and how can you adjust to a different country environment. That's another thing.
Mm.
And also, I have learned a lot from entrepreneurs like Mr. Merrill J. Fernando, the founder
Yeah.
of Dilma,
Mm.
how he established brands in different countries, never give up attitude, how a family company, a brand like Dilma get into a hotel chain like Ritz-Carlton and Marriott, or hotel
Correct.
chain like Hilton.
Yeah.
It's an amazing journey, and I was part of it. Learnings are, substantial, quite a lot. So I can't say this and that, but I would say how different brands, do their campaigns in other markets, how the culture will be impacted.
Correct.
All these things are very, very important.
Mm. Okay. So I'm actually asking questions on international marketing because uh, I personally love that subject. So which was the toughest country that you have faced problems with making a deal, like like let's say a business deal, which was the toughest country so far?
Yes, I would say it's India,
Okay.
because due to various reasons, Tarindu, I have to first explain, even whoever who is going through this particular interview or the video, I would like them to understand this concept. India is one of the toughest markets for a brand owner or a manufacturer to enter.
Mm,
However, it is one of the most uh, biggest markets in the world. So in terms of the challenges or the difficulties, it's in many different ways. So I'll start with you. Whatever the brand it is, Tarindu, India manufacture that particular product. You
Yeah.
name it,
Hmm.
we have it. So
It's like China,
obviously,
no? It's like
that's
China.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's like China. There are a lot of similarities between India and China,
Hmm.
but I would say, in terms of regulatory requirements, in terms of the attitude, the perceptions, Indians are much challenging because
Hmm.
they will always patronize Indian supermarkets. They will always use Indian brands. They will say, be Indian, buy Indian.
Hmm.
So all these things are there. And
Hmm.
also a lot of bureaucratics, a lot of red tapes. You
Yeah.
can't just do something.
Hmm.
Sometimes you have to, I mean, they will ask you to bribe them. Sometimes they will say, no, you can't do it.
Hmm.
So there are a lot of challenges that you have to overcome in a country like India.
Hmm.
And also it's very time consuming
Hmm.
because most of the organizations expect things to happen very fast. So
Yeah.
India, it takes a lot of time,
Hmm.
and region to region, country is very big. So for you to, sometimes within the same country, the regulatory framework is different.
Hmm.
So if you are in North India, sometimes the things you could do is not possible for you to do the same thing in South India.
Yeah.
So it's a very complex market. A lot of regulations are changing,
Hmm.
and finding people, it's a challenge. Competition is severe. So with all these things, there are prevailing market opportunities. Like you very correctly mentioned, a country like China and country like India, even though all these negatives or the challenges are there, still you can be a very niche player catering
Hmm.
to a particular segment at a premium, and you can be a successful organization.
Hmm. Okay. So, like the the country India. So basically, it's challenging. You say it's because of the population, or is it the nature of the people there, or the education system that they have?
Yes, Tharindu, actually, I can't tell it as
Exactly.
one reason. There are multiple things, that has an impact. To
Mm.
give you an example, some of the things you mentioned are also are reasons. Now, I'll tell you now how the population will have an impact. Because of the population, most of the brand owners or the manufacturers, they offer products at very competitive price points because
Mm.
it's a volume-driven market. So now, say for example, now we were promoting Elephant House ginger beer in India.
Mm.
So if we are trying to sell ginger beer at a particular price point, the competitor products, not necessarily the ginger beer per se, but carbonated soft drinks, they will market it at one third of our price because
Mm.
that's how the market is. And
Marketing.
then they are used to their own products. They are used to their
Mm.
own brands. I mean, if you look at tea, they will like to have an Assam tea or a Darjeeling tea or maybe a masala tea. But it's very difficult for them to get into a different brand or a different type of tea. So
Mm.
it's their lifestyle. If they are expected price point, they're used to it. And, all these things are multiple reasons.
Okay. So actually, so far what we have talked about was we've talked about a lot about international marketing, and then how you started your career, and about Cashew Talks. Um, so if we are to move away from those topics, like if you I would say it's a personal thing as well. I would really love to know this. If you are to talk about the struggles or the hardships that you have gone through from like from being a medical delegate, or before that as well, you can talk about that as well, and to the journey of becoming a director in the corporate world. So if you could actually tell us what sort of hardships that you have gone through and how you have actually tackled it, because I strongly feel that uh, uh, people who are watching this, it will add value to them.
Okay, Tarindu, it's a very good question, and I will explain it in little detail. Now, to start with, when I started my career with GlaxoSmithKline, again, now I'm supposed to meet set of doctors,
mm,
and sometimes when you go to meet doctors, it could be 7 o'clock in the morning in a particular government hospital. It could be 6 o'clock in the evening in another private practice. So that's how I started my career. So you have to go, sometimes you have to wait, then they will not call you immediately, you have to wait, and all that. That's how I started.
mm,
And throughout my career, Tarindu, it has been very challenging because the expectations are very high.
mm.
But to answer your question, throughout my career, I didn't find any shortcuts. I'll give you some example. Whenever I visited an international market, it was always on a Sunday I was flying,
Okay.
because I wanted to be in the market by Monday morning. So
Mm,
I mean, my organization never asked me to go on a Sunday, but it is me who decided, okay, I will go on a particular Sunday afternoon, and in that country I will be. So by the time I wake up, I am ready to work on from Monday onwards. And say, for example, if I am traveling from Bangalore to Hyderabad, or Hyderabad to Chennai, it was always Tarindu 5 o'clock in the morning flight. It was not
mm,
9 a.m. flight,
mm,
because that's the kind of a sacrifice I had. And also, when you talk about struggles, all that, I was away from my family for many many months. There was a time that my wife, she's a Navy doctor by profession, she was in Trincomalee, I
mm.
was in Vietnam, and our son was only about 2 3 years. Of
Okay.
course, we were blessed with our parents and our in-laws. But what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, throughout my career, and also Tarindu, I want to tell another important thing. Some of my own colleagues in my previous organizations have told me, Buddhika, if it is Bangladesh, we just don't want to go even. If it is India, we don't want to go. But I have stayed and lived in those countries as a marketer,
Mm,
purely to do credentials, do justice to my brands, whatever the brands I was promoting. So it was tough. And during that process, my education got affected, because I
mm.
couldn't do the continuation, I couldn't do my lecturing, I couldn't come for any of the Josephine and Pete Wright big match for those 6 years. uh, I'm a huge cricket fan.
Yeah.
Every year, month of March, my boss sends me to another country, and I will come only in April or May. So those are, I mean, sometimes I can't go for a family wedding, I can't go even for a funeral, I can't, because that's the kind of a sacrifice I had to do because of my job. But of course, there were a lot of benefits in terms of my own career growth and all that. So that's, and in fact, Tarindu, to explain further, in certain countries, when you go and tell them that you want to have dinner, they
Mm,
don't understand. Countries like China, countries
mm.
like Vietnam,
Yeah.
they smile at you, they laugh at you, they make a joke out of you. So even if you say fried rice, or if you say rice, they don't understand. So just imagine, after working in a different country, you want to have your meal,
Mm.
and you can't order whatever they, and you don't know whether it's snakes or whatever in the menu. So these are the kind of a challenges I underwent. It's very challenging, but
Correct.
I took it very positively, and I did my job for many many years.
Mm.
So that's the kind of explanation I would like to give you.
Yeah. So I think fried rice is only in Sri Lanka, right?
No, actually, in most of the countries now, it's becoming very popular.
Ah, okay.
Because why I quote that example, Arindu, now for us, in any other country, when you go, that's the easiest thing for you to tell someone, because even in countries like, say, Vietnam, India, all these countries, in their menus, they have it. But what I'm saying is, say, if you're working in an area like Hanoi, the northern part of Vietnam, they really struggle for the language. So they each other, they get together and they smile at you, look, this guy is asking for something, kind of things.
What the hell is he talking? They might be saying, what the hell is he talking? What the hell is he asking?
Exactly, exactly.
Okay. So it's been a fabulous chat so far, Mr. Buddhika. So just to end this episode, I would really like to ask you, because you are an entrepreneur as well. So there are people who are out there who really want to start a business, especially during this COVID period, because COVID has actually given us a different perspective to our life, because we understood that nothing is certain, and we understood that everybody has to face it, and everybody is similar to the nature. So there are no, like favorizations and everything. So because of that, people are trying to get into businesses, especially online businesses. But as an entrepreneur, what sort of um, words of wisdom that you could actually share with our viewers who are, aspiring to become an entrepreneur?
Okay, Taninder, that's again a very good question. I would say, first of all, you should have a definitely, if you want to start your own business, you should, because doing a business is not easy. Now today is the Independence Day in Sri Lanka,
Yeah,
and the entire morning hours, the afternoon hours, I was doing something to do with my business. Basically, you can't have a rest. uh,
correct.
you are fully occupied. And also it's very important for you to understand what business you want to get into,
Mm,
what is the business model you want to follow, because just for the sake of doing something, it's not really worthwhile. There are so many different businesses, so you have to be very creative. And I have to emphasize this also, there are ample opportunities irrespective of the industry, whether
mm,
it's consumer or the pharmaceutical or advertising, whatever the industry, there are a lot of opportunities. So I'm not here to tell this is the industry, this is the business that you should get into,
correct.
but as an adult or as a matured person, it is up to you to decide which industry or which business that you should get into. Once you decide that, you have to find your own way how to differentiate, because people are looking for value addition,
Mm,
people are looking for unique things. And
correct.
like you very correctly mentioned, that digital technology has created a lot of opportunities. So you have to be ready, and you can't achieve things within couple of days. It's a long journey, you might fail couple of times, so you should never give up. And you have to have a long term objective. And so it's a continuous struggle sometimes to establish a brand. I mean, the one of the organizations I have worked for, Dilma,
Yeah.
the founder, the Mr. Merrill J. Fernando, launched the brand Dilma when he was 60 plus years. Just imagine,
Oh,
60 plus years.
whoa.
He was doing something else. Then after all those learning, only he launched the brand when he was in his 60s.
Yeah,
So
very very similar to KFC story, like he is also have found the
that's right.
recipe.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
So thank you very much, Mr. Buddhika, for spending your valuable time with my episode, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tarindu, and good night. Thank you so
Good
much.
night.